Hello everyone. Today I will tell you a story. The story is titled, When Boy Leaned Against My Leg. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you appreciate me. You can skip this if you don't and oppose. Like this video. Thank you very much. The story begins as follows. Boy has a habit of entering a room as if he's not trying to be noticed. No dramatic footsteps, no urgent barking, no demand for attention. He just appears. Sometimes I don't even realize he's there until I feel a warm, gentle pressure against my leg. That's how this story begins. On an ordinary afternoon, with nothing special planned and nothing urgent waiting to be done. It was one of those days where time felt stretched thin. Not busy, not exciting, just long. The sunlight slipped through the curtains and landed on the floor in soft rectangles. I sat at my desk, scrolling aimlessly, pretending to be productive while my mind wandered between unfinished thoughts. The room was quiet in a way that felt heavier than silence should. Then Boy came in. He didn't look at me right away. He walked slowly, sniffed the air, circled once near the chair, and then, without ceremony, sat down and leaned his back against my leg. Not hard, not clingy, just enough to say, I'm here. That simple contact did something strange. It grounded me. His fur was warm, his breathing steady. I could feel the subtle rise and fall of his body through my jeans. Boy sighed, the kind of sigh that sounds like the end of a long thought. I realized I had been holding tension in my shoulders without knowing it, and slowly, unconsciously, I relaxed. Boy didn't ask for anything. He didn't look up at me with hopeful eyes or wag his tail dramatically. He just leaned there, trusting that my leg would stay, trusting that this small shared moment was enough. I looked down at him. His ears were relaxed, his eyes half closed. He looked completely content, like the world made sense as long as this position remained unchanged. And for a moment, the world did make sense. Outside, a motorbike passed. Somewhere down the street, someone laughed. Inside the room, there was only the quiet rhythm of a dog breathing and the feeling of being needed, not in a demanding way, but in a gentle, grounding one. That afternoon didn't become memorable because something big happened. It became memorable because nothing did. Just a dog leaning against my leg, reminding me that sometimes presence is more powerful than action. Living with Boy has taught me that dogs speak a language humans often forget how to hear. It's not made of words or commands, but of weight, warmth, timing, and patience. When Boy leans against my leg, he's not just resting. He's communicating. There are days when he chooses the couch, days when he sprawls in the middle of the floor like he owns the house, and days when he follows me from room to room like a quiet shadow. But when he leans against my leg, I know something specific is happening. It's his way of anchoring himself and me. I started noticing patterns. On days when I feel restless, when I stand up too often and sit down too quickly, Boy leans more firmly. On days when I sigh a lot or stare too long at nothing, he positions himself closer. He doesn't fix anything. He doesn't interrupt. He simply stays. One evening, after a long and mentally exhausting day, I sat on the floor with my back against the sofa. My thoughts were loud, circling the same worries again and again. Boy walked over, turned his back to me, and leaned fully into my leg, almost trusting me to hold him upright. It was such a simple act, yet it felt like responsibility. Stay, his body seemed to say. Be here. I placed my hand on his head and felt the softness of his fur, the familiar shape of his skull beneath my palm. He didn't move. He didn't look back. He didn't need reassurance. He already believed in the moment. That's the thing about Boy. He doesn't overthink affection. He doesn't wonder if now is the right time or if he's being inconvenient. When he feels safe, he leans. When he trusts, he rests. And when he loves, he does it quietly, consistently, without conditions. Watching him taught me something uncomfortable about myself. How often I hesitate to show care unless I'm sure it will be received perfectly. How often I pull back instead of leaning in. Boy never does that. He assumes connection is allowed. Sometimes, while he leans against me, I imagine what the world looks like from his perspective. A world measured not in achievements or deadlines, but in closeness. A world where being near someone you trust is enough reason to stop moving. In those moments, I stop too. When Boy leans his back against my leg, he reminds me of something essential that modern life often makes us forget. Connection doesn't need to be loud to be meaningful. In a world obsessed with speed, productivity, and constant expression, animals like Boy teach us the value of quiet presence. He doesn't solve my problems, but he softens them. He doesn't give advice, but he creates space for clarity. From this small daily moment, there are lessons we can carry into our own lives. First, learn to be present without needing to perform. Just as Boy leans without asking for attention, we can support others simply by being there, listening, staying, and not rushing to fix everything. Second, allow yourself to receive comfort. Many of us are good at giving but struggle to accept. Letting an animal rest against you is a reminder that mutual care is a shared balance. Finally, respect the quiet bond between humans and animals. This relationship is not about ownership, but coexistence. When we slow down enough to notice these small interactions, we become more patient, empathetic, and grounded, not just with animals, but with people too. In leaning against my leg, Boy doesn't just rest his body. He teaches me how to rest my mind and how to live a little more gently in a busy world.